used to think public parks were harmless, a place for kids, joggers, old couples walking their dogs, the kind of place where nothing bad ever happens. But last November, I learned how wrong that belief was. It was a cold, empty Tuesday night. Around 11:45 p.m. I was walking back from my friend's place through Ridgewood Park, something I'd done 100 times. It cuts my walking distance in half, and normally the entire place is silent, except for wind and maybe a distant car. But that night, something felt different. The moment I stepped inside, it wasn't fear at first. Just a pressure, like someone had turned the air heavier. My footsteps echoed more than usual on the concrete path. The swings creaked, even though there was barely any wind, and the park lights flickered, one by one, as if something was following me from behind. I kept telling myself it was just the cold messing with my head. I pulled my hoodie tighter and walked faster. About halfway through the park is a small wooden shelter, a simple roof with picnic benches under it, usually empty. But that night, someone was sitting inside. At first, I thought it was just a homeless guy, but when I got closer, I felt my stomach twist. The man was sitting perfectly still. Too still. He was facing the opposite direction, staring at the empty field in front of him. He didn't move, didn't shiver, didn't even look like he was breathing, but he made a slowed down. Not because I wanted to, my body just forced me to. The shelter had a small lamp on top of it. It flickered once Dan studied. That's when I saw it. The man's head was tilted. Unnaturally. Not to the side. His face was looking straight up at the ceiling while his body faced forward. I froze. At first I thought maybe he had a neck injury or something. But the longer I stared, the more wrong it looked. His back didn't move. No rise or fall. No sound. Nothing. I took one quiet step back. Then another. The wooden bench creaked behind him, and the man's head snapped forward so violently it made a loud cracking sound. I nearly fell backwards. Now his head was straight, facing toward the field again. But I knew. He'd just moved. I whispered to myself, "Don't run, just walk." I turned around and started walking toward the exit. My legs felt like rubber, but I forced myself forward. About 10 seconds later, I heard footsteps behind me. Slow, heavy, deliberate. I didn't look back. I just kept walking faster. The footsteps sped up too. Every instinct in me screamed run, but something told me that if I did, he'd sprint. So I stayed at a fast walk, gripping my phone in my pocket. My thumb hovered over the emergency button. I finally reached the end of the park. The street was only a few feet away. Then, everything behind me went silent. No footsteps, no movement. Nothing. I turned my head just a little, enough to see the shelter in my peripheral vision. The man was standing outside of it now, facing me. Even from that distance, I could tell his head was crooked again, slowly tilting, like he was trying to see me from a different angle. I stepped onto the street and didn't stop until I reached the gas station across from the park. When I turned back, he was still standing there, just staring. I went inside the gas station and waited. 5 minutes. 10. When I looked outside again, he was gone. I ran home and locked every door and window. But the worst part, this wasn't the end. 3 days later, my friend texted our group chat. "Yo, anyone hear about the guy found dead at Ridgewood Park? Neck broken." I felt my blood turn cold. I checked the local news. A jogger had been found early that morning near the same shelter. His neck was snapped at a sharp angle. The report said there was no sign of struggle, no signs of robbery. Nothing. Just a broken neck. Exactly like the man's I saw that night. The police claimed it must have been an accident. But I know better. I took the long way home from that day forward, even if it added an extra 20 minutes, because I'm sure of one thing. That wasn't a homeless guy. That wasn't a drunk guy. That wasn't someone who needed help. Whatever was in that park shelter, it wasn't human. Story 2. The playground stalker. I used to work night shifts, and if you've ever walked home at 3 a.m., you know the world feels different. It's quieter, colder, almost like everything familiar becomes threatening. There's a small neighborhood park near my old apartment. Nothing special, just a couple of swings, a metal slide, and a sandbox that was always full of cigarette butts. During the day, it was filled with kids. At night, it was usually empty. But one night, someone was there, and they were waiting for me. I got off my shift at 2:50 a.m. and started walking back. I took the park route because it saved me 10 minutes, and I was just exhausted. I'd done it hundreds of times, never had a single problem. I was halfway through, scrolling on my phone, when I heard it. A chain rattling. Not the light sound of wind, not just metal creaking. It was the heavy, dragging sound of a swing moving. Primera looked up. One swing was moving back and forth. Slowly. Too slowly for the wind. Like someone had just gotten off it. The rest of the park was completely still. I stopped walking. The swing kept moving. Back and forth. Back and forth. I told myself, it's nothing. Just go. That's when I noticed something else. On the edge of the sandbox, there were footprints. Large ones. Way too large for a kid. And they were deep, meaning whoever made them weighed a lot. I scanned the area and didn't see anyone. Still, something felt very, very off. I walked past the swing set, keeping my eyes forward. Then I heard breathing. Not mine. Not close, but close enough. Slow. Wet. Raspy. I didn't turn around. I didn't want to see. I just picked up my pace. But then, something made me stop. A whisper, right behind me. Sharp. Low. It was my name. My actual, full first name. Primera Frose. My heart felt like it dropped into my stomach. I had never told anyone I walked through here. Nobody should have been able to see me. The nearest houses were too far for someone to recognize me at 3 a.m. I turned around slowly. Nothing. Just the empty swing, still moving slightly. And the sandbox. Ten primeras a W. Italiano. Someone was behind the slide. A shadow. A tall. Shep, perfectly still, like they were trying not to be noticed. I stepped backward, barely breathing. The shadow shifted then. Not a lot, just enough to confirm it was a person. Maybe 6 foot, broad shoulders, moving very slowly, like they were testing me, watching how I would react. I didn't run. Not yet. Running can trigger certain people. I walked backward until I reached the sidewalk. The moment my foot hit the pavement, the figure stepped out. A man, tall, wearing a hooded jacket, his face completely lost in shadow, his head tilted, like a confused dog, like he was trying to see if I would break. Then he stepped toward me. One long step, then another. I turned and ran. Not a jog, a full sprint. I didn't look back, but I could hear him. Heavy footsteps, long strides, gaining on me. I cut across the street toward an apartment complex. I knew there were security cameras there. Lights. People. But the second I reached the parking lot, his footsteps stopped. I hid behind a car, breathing hard. Nothing moved. The street was empty. The park was silent. It was gone. Gone. I stayed hidden for at least 5 minutes, then rushed home, locked everything, and didn't sleep a second. The next morning, I went past the park again, this time in broad daylight. That's when I saw something that made me physically nauseous. There were footprints in the sandbox, huge ones, the same ones from last night. But now there were more. They started at the edge of the sandbox and went all the way to the sidewalk, directly toward the exact spot where I had been standing when he whispered my name. And on the bench beside the sandbox, there was something else. A folded piece of paper, no envelope. Just a note. My name was written on the front, neat handwriting. Too neat. Inside, it only had one sentence. I almost got you last night. I reported it to the police. They checked the cameras from the apartment lot. They saw me running, but they never saw him. No figure behind me. No shadow. Nothing. They said I was just tired, maybe hallucinating, but I know what I heard. I know what I saw. Someone was there. Someone was watching me. Someone knew my name. I moved apartments a week later, and to this day, if I am ever walking alone at night and I hear metal chains creak or a swing move even slightly, I go the other way, because I know he's still out there, and he remembers me. There's a park near my cousin's neighborhood that everyone avoids after sunset, not because of crime, not because of animals, but because of the woods behind it. They're dense, unnaturally dark, and dead silent at night. Kids spread rumors about strange noises, but every town has stories like that. I never believed any of it. Not until last winter. I was staying with my cousin for a few days. One night, around 12:30, I stepped out for some air. I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing. The park was right across the street, and the cold air helped clear my head. I walked along the path, hands in my pockets, just thinking about work, life, all the usual stuff. The swings didn't move. The lights didn't flicker. It was just quiet. Too quiet. Then I heard something from the tree line. Not an animal, not wind. Something heavier. A branch snapped. Then another. Then something exhaled alone. Shaky breath. I stopped walking. The park rules sign was a few feet away, facing the woods. I stepped behind it, using it as cover, and listened. Another breath, then a soft, dragging sound, like something pulling itself across the ground. I told myself it was a deer, but deer don't sound like they're struggling to breathe, and they don't drag themselves. I looked through the gap between the wooden sign and the metal post. There was something in the trees, a shape, low to the ground, crawling. Its movements were slow, deliberate, almost careful. The way a predator moves when it doesn't want to be seen. I stayed perfectly still. The shape moved closer to the tree line, and the park light hit it just enough for me to make out a few details. It wasn't an animal, not any animal I've ever seen. Its limbs were long, too long, like they didn't fit its body. Its skin looked pale, almost gray, and its head, it hung low, almost touching the ground, like its neck couldn't support it. It crawled to the edge of the grass and stopped. Then it lifted its head just a little. I couldn't see its face, just darkness where the eyes should be. I held my breath. My entire body went numb. Then it did something that still makes my stomach twist, just thinking about it. It stood up, not normally. It unfolded, piece by piece, like bones clicking into place. When it was fully upright, it had to be at least 7 feet tall. It tilted its head back, like it was sniffing the air. Then, it took one slow step into the park. I stayed behind the sign, barely breathing. Another step, and another. Its feet made almost no noise on the wet grass, which somehow made it even worse. It moved toward the playground, toward the slide, toward the open space where moonlight hit the ground. I thought about running, but whatever this thing was, it wasn't blind. If I moved, it would hear me. I waited. It reached the sandbox and crouched again, lowering its head toward the ground like it was smelling something. Then it jerked its head up fast, like it sensed movement. My heart stopped. It turned toward my direction. Not exactly at me, but close. I pressed myself against the back of the sign, silently begging the wind to not shift my scent. The creature took a step closer, then another. It was maybe 15 feet away. Then, it made a sound. Not a growl, not a snarl, a voice. But it wasn't right. It wasn't human. It was like someone was trying to imitate human speech. The pitch was off. The tone was warped. And the words came out slow, like it was learning how to shape them. It said, "Who is there?" My entire body locked up. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. It took another step toward the sign. Closer. Closer. Then, in the distance, a dog barked. Just one loud, abrupt bark. The thing snapped its head toward the sound and bolted into the trees. Not ran-bolted, like it weighed nothing. Branches cracked, leaves scattered, and within 3 seconds it was gone, deep into the woods. I stayed behind the sign for at least a full minute before I moved. When I finally stepped out, I saw something near the sandbox. Tracks. Deep ones. Too deep for a human. Too long. Too wide. They weren't shaped right, either. The police didn't care when we reported it. They said people dump trash, make tracks, whatever. Typical. But here's the part that messed me up the most. 2 nights later, around 2 in the morning, my cousin shook me awake. He was pale, wide-eyed. He pointed at his bedroom window. There were scratch marks on the glass, long ones, going downward, and in the dirt outside his window. Footprints, the same shape as the ones by the sandbox. It found me again. It had followed my scent. We moved out 2 months later, but some nights, even now, I'll wake up to that same slow dragging sound in my head. And every time I walk near any wooded park after sunset, I watch the tree line carefully because I know it's still out there. And it remembers the night it almost stepped close enough to touch me. Thanks for listening to my story. If you've ever seen anything like this, let me know in the comments. Be careful out there, and don't forget to subscribe for more.